Welcome. We are going to talk a lot about how to kind of take back control and protect our kids online. I've been working on these issues for about 18 years now, and you guys, it's so slow to change. I'll just share with Apple, for example. It takes 32 steps to turn on the parental controls, and you have to go to 4 different locations. We fought Apple tooth and nail to try to make that simpler, and then they finally started like a family account that links the phones together. But if you don't have that family account, again, 32 steps in 4 different locations. Roblox, a couple years ago, my son was begging and begging and begging to go on Roblox. I went to go check it out, turned on the parental controls. I flipped this switch that says, "Don't let strangers talk to your kid." And then I started playing it for a few minutes to kind of see how it worked. There's so many back doors that allow strangers to talk to your kids even when you flip that switch on. And yet, so we're, as parents, we think we're doing all we can do. We think we've protected our kids, and they don't tell us. They don't tell us that these things don't work. And so I started kind of a new initiative with my colleague Casey. Instead of just trying to go to the tech companies directly and get them to change little by little over the years, we've started a 501c4, which is a lobbying nonprofit, and it's brought so much more power, and we are very active in the states and at the federal level. And we're pushing for federal legislation and state legislation. We're going to talk about a few of those today. But before that, I want to introduce you briefly to many of my friends who are here and give them a chance to share with you some of their journey and their advocacy. So Bethany Syverson is an incredible advocate from New Hampshire, mom of 6, who has been tirelessly fighting on these issues, especially against the pornography industry for many years. Representative Brandon Guffey from South Carolina, a state representative who has led the charge significantly there and at the federal level to get Congress to push for changes. We have Erica Donaldson, who is a passionate defender of parental rights, which we need. You guys, tech follows us around and they say, you just need to parent better. But we have no rights at all when it comes to the internet. They treat our kids as adults at age 13. So we'll hear from Erica. Jan Edwards from Paving the Way Foundation right here in Florida. Tireless advocate, works directly with youth and then takes their voices to legislators. And Casey Stefanski has been working on these issues for going on 12 years, mom of 3, super impactful. I'm gonna hand it over first to Gavin, or to Brandon. I feel like I know Gavin really well now, and I'd just like you to share maybe briefly a little bit about how you got into this kind of advocacy, but then really what you think parents need to know.
So on July 27th of 2022, I lost my 17-year-old son due to suicide. And what I found out was he was a victim of a crime called sextortion, which I had never heard of before. And as I started looking into it, I started seeing how there are no protections online. My background was in tech in the early 2000s, and just started, as Dawn was saying, age 13, they treat you as an adult. But it wasn't just the person that attacked my son. Meta left the company or the person up online for them to continue to extort my 14-year-old cousin and my 16-year-old son the week that we are trying to bury my son, and then even went as far in less than a month of sending me a message saying, "Did I tell you your son begged for his life?" with the laughing face emoji. And this was someone that big tech knew was a bad actor. And as I got into the State House, we passed Gavin's Law, which mandates the education of sextortion in South Carolina and creates a felony offense. And I began to advocate on a national level, most recently the Take It Down Act, that First Lady Melania Trump made it her first mission of the Be Best initiative. And so my life's mission until the day that I die is try to save as many kids online as possible and educate parents of how prevalent this is, because I don't think anyone really understands. And what parents really don't understand is there is no parental rights online. At age 13, they treat your child as an adult. And the predators will be where the children are, and right now that's online.
So with Google, for example, and Apple, if you have your accounts linked right when you turn 13, kids can just turn them off and delink them. Finally, they allowed us to, as parents, to get a notification that our children have done that, but they still have the right, in big tech's mind, to completely separate from us as parents. Brandon, can you share about, you've worked with so many parents, and you've heard story after story after story about what, kind of the trends are, the way these kids are being attacked online. Can you just talk a little bit to those trends that the youth are facing?
So whenever I first heard of sextortion, and I started looking into it, my son was a victim of what they call financial sextortion. But prior to that, it was more of the extorting of females. And what we found is that females would not report it because all they had to do was take a picture, and these images wouldn't go out. But as we have seen, what happens is they end up into sex trafficking because they are desensitizing themselves, and they are turning over these images very easily. The scammers are using those images to extort teenage boys. And now we're starting to see the rise of sadistic sextortion, which is more of controlling an individual and causing them to commit crimes or commit harms. But in addition to that, we are seeing, not just on the sextortion side of things, the rise of AI. The first person charged under Gavin's law was because of these Nudify apps, which I believe you said there's hundreds online. You can take a picture of anyone 8 to 80 if it's female and make them completely nude. And this was a middle school kid that took a picture of a classmate, made her completely nude, and said, if you don't send me more pictures, I'm going to make this go viral. And so that was the first person charged, but the worst case that I've dealt with was an 8-year-old on the game Roblox. And this person bribed them with Robux to get them to get onto Discord. The child provided their address. The criminal then looked up the parent's social media, used a Nudify app to make the 8-year-old nude, and it went on for 10 months. This child was only allowed to get on Roblox for an hour a day. And I said 10 months, 2 months. Over that 2-month period, it wasn't until the mother walked in and caught the 8-year-old trying to insert something in her that they were able to find out that she was being extorted for that 2-month period. And it wasn't even a real photo to begin with. The child just thought that they were going to be in trouble for having that photo.
So many cases like that. Jan, you work with a lot of youth. Can you share with us some of the things you're hearing about their experiences directly from them?
Sure. However, I have a question. How many of you know what Roblox is? Raise your hand. Okay, great. How many of you know what Marco Polo is? Okay, great. How many of you know what Twitch is? Okay, good. So those are 3 of the dozens of apps your kids are on. So we've educated over 43,000 kids in person in small groups over the past 8 years. Every week we're talking to kids, so we have just a little bit of knowledge about what's happening to them, okay? So we educate K through 12, and every single class we're in the conversation with, we ask, how many of you have either gotten a DM, direct message, or picture, inappropriate picture, from someone you don't know? How many hands do you think go up?
All of them.
All of them, all the way down to 3rd grade. That's what our kids are dealing with. And quite frankly, they're over it. In our training, our last day, we do 3 one-hour sessions. Our last day, we actually go over pieces of legislation that protect them because they don't know. They don't know in the state of Florida it's illegal to take, send, or host an inappropriate picture. Class 1 misdemeanor all the way up to Class 3 felony. They don't know, and you know who else doesn't know? Who else doesn't know? Their parents. Every day our kids are committing felonies and they have no clue. Once they find out, they get it and they make changes, right? But every day they're being bombarded with DMs and pictures they never asked for, and they're looking to us as to what are you going to do about that? And we tell them, I'm either coming back from DC or I'm going to DC. I tell people I'm the color commentary because we're dealing with 7th graders, 8th graders, 12th graders, 5th graders, and they got something to say. And they want the people up in DC and Tallahassee to hear, but you know who else they really want to talk to about this? You. They really do want to have this conversation with you. They just don't know how. And that's part of our responsibility as parents. And you said something really powerful, Dawn, about, and I was in the room yesterday up at the AI conversation, and somebody asked, do you think AI's, safe for kids? I have lots of things to say about that. But the person up here said, oh, it's on the parent's responsibility. Well, I don't know about you, but I didn't have one of these as a kid. I had a little flippy phone. I'm old enough to remember my phone was as big as my shoe, right? This takes something. We are digital immigrants. They are digital natives. So a really great way to engage with your kids is to ask them, going like, I got this thing on my phone the other day. I have no idea how to, can you show me? Now you may already know. That's okay, right? But it gives them the opportunity to show you something, and it opens up a conversation that you never would have had before, because now they know that you know what a DM is, right? You know what a picture is. You start to speak some of the language, and it opens up those doors. So we're seeing kids, they're over the DMs. They're over being bombarded. They really are. And their little prefrontal cortex isn't quite done being cooked yet, right? We are their prefrontal cortex until we're 25, or they're 25, right? So they don't understand what's actually happening on here. There's blurred lines in this environment, and they don't understand. But once they get it, I promise you they get it. I promise you they do, and they want to talk to you about it and have them help you. Going, we got to figure out this parental control. Let's do it together, right? So instead of the finger wagging and the hand on the hip, do it with them so they can start to understand it's your job, our job, to protect them. So that we're seeing they want to talk to parents. They want the assistance, and they're over the stuff that's coming to them. And when we talk to them about the legislation, they're like, well, what are you guys going to do? What bills are you going to pass to protect us? Because they start to see it's intentional, targeted bombardment. They can start to see it when we start to point it out and we have the dialogue. They can start to see it.
Bethany, I mean, we've talked a lot. We have kids around the same age, and her youngest too, and I call her like, how do we protect them? And I know you have long said you feel kind of powerless as well. Like it's so hard. Can you just speak a little bit to what you've heard from parents and your own experience about how difficult it is to walk this online life with our kids?
Yeah. So some of the things I'm hearing from parents is that, overwhelmingly is they just have no idea how bad all this tech is. I mean, people know what I do for, I say work. I'm mostly a stay-at-home mom, homeschooling my kids, but do this on the side. But all my friends know, and then I'll still ask them like, oh, so you let them play on Roblox? Oh, you let them have Snapchat? And they'll be like 7 and 8 years old with full social media access, full smartphones already. They're like, oh, I just gave them my old cell phone. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just so heartbreaking. And so some of the things I'm hearing, is that parents just have no idea how bad these are. Maybe slightly off topic, but I just read an article yesterday that ChatGPT just announced, maybe you guys saw this as well, they just announced yesterday that starting soon, I don't remember when, in the next few weeks, that full erotica is going to be allowed on ChatGPT. And how that's going to be allowed is they're going to have age verification. Well, guess what? Age verification is on half of the apps that are out there, but they're not monitored. I think it was you, Dawn, in one of your presentations I heard one time that an app like Snapchat and TikTok says it's rated for age 4 years old. So the ChatGPT app is going to be rated probably very similarly I don't know what false age verifications they're going to use, but I can guarantee you that kids are going to get a hold of this stuff, and they are going to be reading and interacting with a very real life. I don't know if you guys have used ChatGPT, but like the feature even where they talk back to you, my kids are like, "What was that, Mom?" I'm like, "That was ChatGPT." And they're like, "It sounded so real." Exactly, which is why we're not going to use this, right? Like, so I think less of what I'm hearing and more of what I'm seeing from parents is confusion and a lack of knowledge. And it's like, I feel like we're just beating the same drum, and yet it feels sometimes like parents are just not hearing it. I don't know if it's like a denial or a feeling of powerlessness, so they're just handing it over to their kids. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but it's really heartbreaking. And then out of that, I'm seeing these same exact kids who I've known since they were in diapers, who are now young adults or in their older teens, who are having major mental health issues, suicide attempts, major anxiety, panic disorders. It's crazy what's happening. And I think parents, by and large, I think just need to open their eyes, and it can feel scary, right? Like it can feel scary to not know things, but to just start learning. Like, I mean, you guys are all here. That's amazing. And probably many of you are advocates in your own way, and that's awesome. But I think the average parent is afraid to just dive in and find out the things that they don't know. Like when I got started in this in 2007, it was because my next door neighbor I found out was trafficking his stepdaughter, who was 11. The mom was a nurse working third shift. And while she was working third shift, he was raping her in the night and then recording it and uploading it to pedophile websites, and then eventually started trafficking her. And so for 2.5 years, this was happening to her until she was 13 and a half, when the FBI finally swarmed our tiny little town and street. But when that happened, I was like, I will fight like hell for the rest of my life to make sure this does not happen to another person. And obviously, I can only do so much, but basically, it really awakened that mama bear in me, because here I was at home with 4 kids at the time, but I was like, how do I protect my kids? How do I protect their friends? And I didn't know anything. I didn't know the word human trafficking, but as a mom, I jumped right in. I started researching. What is this human trafficking? What does this look like? And before I knew it, I was starting 2 different nonprofits, one fighting human trafficking, one fighting pornography. And I'm at the state house. I'm fighting against bills. I live in New Hampshire, but I led an entire army of allies, built this entire army of allies in Vermont to make sure that bills in Vermont did not get passed, because Vermont had 0 allies. There was nobody fighting any bills in Vermont. And my point is that as a mom, as a parent, don't be afraid to learn the things you don't know, because still you can learn them, and then you can make a powerful impact. Those bills in Vermont, none of them passed. None of them. And I say a large army. It felt large because I was starting from nothing, just me. But there was like 25 allies, and they fought like crazy to make sure those bills didn't pass. So your voice matters, and don't ever let the enemy tell you that you're I'm just a mom. I'm just a single person. No, you're not. You are a daughter of the King, and he will give you the words, and he will give you the strength, and he will give you the knowledge. Even if you don't know it, you have people, you have resources online that you can tap into that will help you as a mom.
Thank you. Erica, you have teenagers, and how do you keep up with the devices and manage all of these things?
Well, it's absolutely exhausting. And if you're a parent of teenagers, I'm sure you feel the same way. It's whack-a-mole. My oldest is 22 now, 18 and 14, all boys. And so we've been through this, through the sort of adoption of more cell phones. Roblox has come about like since I've been raising my children, and they've been in their teenage years. And we, through our church, found out about the pledge of wait till 8th. And at the time, I think they had just launched it. We signed it, and I was able to use that with my oldest son to say, I signed a pledge, so I really can't go back on my word. And, he understood that. So I was like, I signed it. I'm sorry. And then we were able to hold the line with that with my other 2 children. So none of mine got a cell phone until they were in 8th grade. But they literally were the only ones, the only kids in their class that didn't have a cell phone, at least from 6th grade on. And that is really unfortunate because there's that social and cultural pressure on parents where you do feel like you are the only one that's holding the line. And it's not just about them not having a phone or not having access to applications or whatever, but we have to take back control of this with our children. And as the same parental rights that we're fighting for in so many different ways in the schools, we have to recognize that this is also a parental rights issue in technology and in this whole other realm that our kids are spending a lot of time in. And parents have kind of abdicated that and not really recognized that this is a line that we need to stand on. We need legislation to protect our rights there, just like we need legislation to protect our rights in schools and otherwise. And I applaud, thank you so much for the great work that you guys have done. God bless you, and I'm so sorry for what happened to you and the work you're doing. I mean, humbling to be on a panel like this, but encouraging because we have to fight on this front. They have run roughshod over us as parents. Because a lot of us, just like in schools, my mother's generation was not paying attention to what was going on in schools. And so, yes, they just trampled all over parents' rights, and we gave up that ground. We've taken that back in so many ways. And now this is the frontier that we as parents have to exert our rights on. We have to demand protections. We have to hold the line on age appropriateness of all of these applications, content, and we have to demand transparency and accountability for those things. It is not on us to look at every single app and screen and all of that. No, that's ridiculous. They want it to be on us because we will spend all day and all night looking through these things, and we still won't know what our children have access to. That's not going to work, and we have to stand up together and not throw up our hands and say it's just too hard, even though that's really easy to do because it is very difficult. But yeah, 22 steps or whatever, no, not acceptable. We have to say, if you do not recognize my rights as a parent and make it easy for me to ensure safety of my children, we will not use those apps. I don't care if his entire class and his entire school are using it. You're going to recognize my rights as a parent, and you're going to be transparent and accountable, or we will not buy it, we will not allow access to it, we will not have it in our homes, etc. And we really haven't held the line on that as parents. So it is up to us, and thank you for all of you for coming to this because it shows that you recognize that this is a frontier we have to fight on. So we have got to band together, have conversations like this, support organizations like yours, and ensure that that transparency and accountability is accessible to every parent.
Yep. Jan and then Brandon.
Sorry. Yeah. So, ditto. Yes, snaps. Your kids are begging for you to have this conversation and to be parented in this way. They need boundaries desperately. And I know sometimes you might be the lone soldier in that space. It's okay, because the thing that we train our kids is like, look, you may be the one that stands up for something. I promise if you keep standing there, because you're standing for something bigger than yourself, you keep standing there, other people are going to start to join you because they see your bravery, they see your courage, and they see your conviction. Be that parent, and it's like soft, bring into it, but that's the role that we actually get to play as parents.
I want to add that as you were talking about parents being able to know how to enact parental controls, my background was tech. I thought that I had my son's phone locked down. He would get angry at 17 because he had to get parental permission before he could get on a website sometimes that a teacher was sending him to research something. But I didn't care. I said, until you're 18, it's not going to change, and I would constantly have to give him permission. But what happened after his death and we get his phone back, I was confident that he wasn't looking at pornography. But what I found is he had 3 X accounts. One was his basic X account. The other 2 were full pornography that he had signed up. So the app was bypassing the parental controls on the device. Now there are thousands of social media apps out there. Is it easier for us to learn how to enact parental controls on every single app, or do we treat this like a product? Because if there was one product sold at only Walmart and, another big chain store, and it's killed thousands of kids, we would be in arms saying, remove it. Walmart, you shouldn't be selling this until we make sure that it is safe for children. And so that's the reason the big push for things such as the App Store Accountability Act, to say the stores need to verify that if they're going to offer it to children, they need to ensure that it is safe for children. At the same token, in our physical laws, you can't walk into a Walmart and they don't have adult content back in the corner and your kids just walk in there. There's no laws on the book that stops a 13-year-old from walking in, buying a track phone, and activating it over Wi-Fi, agreeing to a contract at 13 years of age, and accessing all of these apps. And big tech, these are the world's richest companies since the inception of man, and yet they can't be held civilly liable. And this becomes the problem. So it's time for us to demand as parents that these companies, I would love to do it without having legislation whatsoever. If you're creating an unsafe product, you should ensure that it's a safe product before it's offered to kids. Because we cannot cover everything that's to do with parents. There's a new app I got called the night before last called Tea on Her. A 13-year-old girl is posted on there, probably from some mean girl in her school, but all of a sudden she gets a text message saying, we will remove this photo for $950. And it's not even the scammer. This is the PR company that's trying to help this girl. And it's turned into a whole new racket. And yet, if this girl's got all these nasty things said about her on there, what is she supposed to do? It is bullying, and I explained the difference between whenever we were growing up. If you peed your pants and you're walking outside of the gym and someone's seen it, you would say, you might lie and only one person's seen it. It's your word versus theirs. Maybe a few people at the school know. But now, if something like that happens, it's not just like everyone at the school knows. It's like flying a plane with flyers over your entire community. All of the schools in your community know. And that pressure that gets put on these kids is unbearable.
So I have 5 kids, and I probably know more than most people about these issues, about each platform, about the safety features. I'm like so buckled down, think I'm with it. And when my oldest was 4, I'm sitting next to him. I download an app rated for 4-year-olds about like counting and the alphabet, and I'm like, good, I can work, he can learn. And you guys, there was a backdoor to YouTube, and then videos just play through it, and he was exposed to the stuff that I'm fighting, like my little 4-year-old in the 4-year-old app, I can tell you so many stories. My kids are not immune. It doesn't matter how hard that we try to protect them. We can't, they're going to leave the house, right? And the technology is pushed on them in the schools, in the church, in their sports groups. I mean, you cannot say to us anymore, moms and dads, just don't let them on. Like that, I lost my mind. I was in New Zealand about a week and a half ago, or a month ago, speaking, and I did this interview, and I look crazy because the journalist, the interviewer was like, well, why would you even give them a phone? And I'm just so tired. I mean, my kids don't have phones, but I'm so tired of hearing that, because that is what tech is saying constantly. That's their narrative. But we live in this world where we have to be online, and we should be able to trust that the 4-year-old app isn't going to serve up hardcore pornography, right? So how did we get to this place? Casey, what do we mean when we're talking about self-regulation, and why doesn't it work? I mean, you've tried for so many years.
Yeah, so I think we've all kind of touched on it a little bit, and I think we all can recognize that tech has really gotten away with whatever they want. So, as Representative Guffey said, if you're in an ideal world, we'd say to companies, listen, there's this problem and kids are being hurt, families are being harmed. Like, can you fix it? And they'd say, yeah, of course, we're going to get right on it. That hasn't happened, right? So while we'd love for tech companies to self-regulate and make their products safe for children and families, they haven't. So, you know, I've personally been engaged in working for over 10 years on helping tech companies see the harms and asking them to change, and they haven't. So we've landed on this, you know, we need legislation they won't do it unless you make them do it. So does that answer your question?
So we've been fighting, some of us on this panel, for 3 years for the Kids Online Safety Act before Congress. It's such a super simple, like, common sense measure that would require especially social media companies to just design with children's safety in mind, common sense protections. And it passed the Senate 91 to 3 last year. 91 to 3. Guys, we had like 80 co-sponsors, Republicans and Democrats equal. This is like the one thing that they can agree on. And then it goes over to the House where we had so much support as well, a huge number of co-sponsors. Do you think it passed? No, because what tech does is they just pick off a few key people in leadership to block it. And as much as many of us in this room probably love Speaker Johnson, he stopped it from going. Why? I'm just going to be bold and tell you it's because Meta is building a multi-billion-dollar data center in Louisiana. And he's like the darling of our party, right, of all these rights that we're fighting for. But that's what tech does. They are so... They go directly in, they split us up, they delay as long as possible. We ran out, we couldn't get it to the floor for a vote. We ran out of time. That was their strategy the whole time. And that's why we have to get more aggressive. We need to get louder, we need to be more active. Jan, tell me some of the things you're seeing. I mean, you are on the Hill all the time. What are you hearing from legislators?
Can you also tell us what is
COSA? Yeah. Yes. I have my little flyer here for COSA. So, so the Kids Online Safety Act is so simple, and I think that's why really tech's fighting it. So I'm going to read you the bullet points. You ready? It establishes a duty of care for platforms to prevent and mitigate harms to children. Sounds like car safety seats, doesn't it? Sounds like seatbelts, sounds like toys. Like that's a normal thing to do to protect our kids. Requires platforms to protect children from, harmful content, including exploitation, substance abuse, eating disorder, and cyberbullying. Because the algorithms is what's doing the damage. It's not about free speech, which is what big tech will tell you. It's about, I'll do experiment. How many of you ever watched those silly cat videos? Yes? Or silly dog video, right, those silly videos? And then you get another one. And then you get another, you didn't ask for it, but you spent more than 3.5 seconds on one video, and now it's gonna send you all that content. Now imagine you're a child who's 12, brain's not done yet. My boyfriend or girlfriend just broke up with me, and I'm looking for something online. And all of a sudden it's not only sending me harm videos, but it's sending me how to get drunk or how to buy drugs or all these other things, right? That's what's happening, and no one's blocking it. And don't tell me they can't block it, because they can. We know they can. Here's the key. Empowers parents and guardians with enhanced security settings and platform transparency, which means you're now in charge, which you need to be. That's it. You guys are in charge. It requires platforms to conduct an annual risk assessment, and it grants researchers access to key data for analyzing the impact of online environment on children. Sounds pretty benign, right? In reality, not for big tech. They make a ton of money on our kids, a ton of money. They're selling our data all over the place. So on the Hill, how many of you been to DC to advocate? Okay, 3. So here's the thing. You don't ever have to leave your comfort of your own home. You can pick up the phone, and they have to answer. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. They have to answer, don't they? And if they don't answer, they have to listen to the voicemails, right? So that's why you want a phone. Yes, staff does. Somebody has to listen to the phone. 2, you can email, which is great. And you can also set up a Zoom meeting, because they work for us. right? So that's how you pick up the phone and you call and go, yeah, I'd like to set up a meeting with my representative to discuss the Kids Online Safety Act, the App Store Accountability Act, the No Fakes Act, and why it's important for my kids because I'm a mom of 5, I'm a mom of 1, I'm a grandma, right? I care about kids. Yeah, I don't know, their future, right? And here's the thing that you all know this. This is the only nation in the world where you walk through a metal detector and you can go talk to a representative or a senator or someone on their staff. It's the only place on the planet you can do that. Same thing with your state, right? So, and it's when you come in, especially the Republicans, they love you. Come in, knock on the door, come in. The Dems, they'll hear you because they got to, because they represent you. And what I've found is you get a lot more with honey than you do with vinegar. Ask them what their impact is. Ask them what their experience is, because DC's run by a bunch of 25-year-olds, right? They actually remember Omegle. They know TikTok. They've seen the videos. So engage with them at where they're coming from, and they'll start to see as a parent what we're talking about. Because my daughter's 33, she was a huge gamer, right? And because she understood what was happening, I could hear her play those video games, and she'd be like, yes, I'm a girl, because she was really good. No, you can't talk to me like that on this platform. I'm out, right? So she learned how to set her own boundaries. And that's the conversation to have with our legislators and our senators and their staff, is they're waiting to hear your voice. And until you actually come speak to them, they won't know. All they're here is the lobbyists. We tried to get a piece of legislation passed last year about buying a human being a felony. I know, it's crazy. You touch an alligator egg, it's a felony. But if I buy a human being, it's a misdemeanor. Okay? So the senator said not one constituent picked up the phone and called me and told me about this bill that mattered to them. Your voice matters. Your friend's voice matters. Your pastor's voice matters, right? It's not that hard. You can go onto congress.gov, find your representative. You've got the phone numbers. Pick up the phone and call them. And it's so simple. Hi, my name's Jan. I'm in this zip code. I'm calling because XYZ. These are the 3 bills I'm concerned about. I'm asking you to vote yes. I'm asking you to co-sponsor. Again, my name's Jan. Zip code XYZ. Thank you. Less than, 20 seconds? Doesn't take long. And they have to check every single one off. And they know when we pick up the phone and they call, we know we've already made a difference, right? We've already passed legislation. So that's the power of your voice.
And it's been 26 years. 26 years since Congress picked this issue up and passed anything. In the last 3 years, they've held 27 congressional hearings to investigate and research the topic, but no action. So they really, really need to hear from you. Casey, talk about the other key bill that we're focused on, the App Store Accountability Act.
Yeah, so the App Store Accountability Act is also simple and common sense. Imagine that. So the app stores are the gatekeepers to our children's digital lives. We know that most of the time kids are spending on their phone, and us adults are spending on our phones, we're using apps. It's over 90% of the time we're on an app. 90% of the time we're on our phone is on an app. So the App Store Accountability Act is 3 parts. It's age verification at the App Store level. It's asking these app stores to use the information they already have, the infrastructure that's already in place, use it to protect kids. So it calls for accurate age app ratings, and it requires parental consent for minors to download apps and agree to the terms of service. So every time you're downloading an app and as soon as you open it, you click, I agree. Those are typically 50,000 word, contracts. They're binding contracts that give these apps access to your location, your data, like all of your information, your camera, your photos, your contacts. And kids don't know what they're signing. In the real world, you can't enter into a contract without a child can't enter into a contract without parental consent. So the same should apply to the digital world. And then it asks the App Store to send an anonymous age signal to the developers so that the developers know how old the user is. Currently, they can say, oh, we don't have kids on our apps. And that's not true. So this bill has passed in Utah, Texas, and Louisiana. We're hopeful that it will pass in your states. And the bill's also been introduced at the federal level. So I guess we probably only have a couple more minutes. Oh, we're good? Okay. Do you want me to keep going?
Sure.
Yeah. Big tech is fighting hard in every state that it's passed in, it's passed nearly unanimously. Apple and Google hate this legislation because it holds them accountable. They've even gone as far as to challenge the bill that passed in Texas just this week. And luckily, the bill is drafted to withstand, First Amendment challenges. So we're confident that all will be good. But they see it passing. They want to, kill the momentum. They want to stall. They want to delay. They pick, of course, the legislation that, goes into effect the soonest because they don't want to do it. Yet, on the other hand, they are ready to comply. They've sent out that they can do it. So it's just a matter of them not wanting to do it. They don't want to be liable for anything. They don't want to be held accountable. They don't want to be transparent. So that's the App Store Accountability Act.
And just adding to that bill too, they already have the infrastructure set up. Apple and Google are both under separate FTC decrees to already, if you're going to make, a youth is going to make in-app purchases, a parent is supposed to approve it. Like, they've already built the systems. They already have the data. They're trying to go around and say, this is so scary. You have to upload birth certificates and stuff. Like, no, you don't. Apple announced, or Google announced, they have 90 points of data about every single one of us and know exactly who we are and exactly how old we are. We can't lie, and yet they're still delivering such harmful, inappropriate content. Representative Guffey is leading the charge on this in South Carolina. Thank you so much.
Thank you. To me, it makes sense. I think big tech is the equivalent of big tobacco of this generation. They're aware of all the harms, and instead of addressing and correcting it, because, as you pointed out, the amount of advertising dollars is close to $300 per teen under the age of 18 that they get in advertising revenue. They're looking at it as money. They fight against it. Meta just announced they're spending $100 million on super PACs to go after legislators that fight against big tech. Well, I think I'm the only legislator in the entire country that is suing Meta directly. I don't know if there's anyone else. But they're doing this to stop legislation. And if we go back to the simplicity of saying App Store, and we look at the way we did tobacco, we didn't say, R.J. Reynolds, you have to go verify that person smoking is 18. No, we said the stores that are going to sell it must verify the age, and they can be held accountable if they sell it to someone underage. That's the way that, and really we only have Apple and Google, and whether you buy an Android phone or an Apple phone, you're verifying your age at least 3 times whenever you're setting it up. Is it perfect? No. Will people lie? Yes. But you're never going to see a 13-year-old get a Depends ad on their social media because they know the age of the person.
Oh, that's pretty funny. We have to end in just a couple minutes, so I want to hear from each one of you just how can we reclaim our authority and our collective voice? And I'll start with you, Bethany, and we can go down.
Well, that works out well. 'Cause the 2 points I wanted to ask or say was just to reiterate your voice. 2 points off of things that other people have said. Like in schools, if you have kids in schools or sports, my husband and I have had emails come in from sports teams and from teachers saying, hey, your kid needs to get WhatsApp because that's how we communicate, or hey, your kid needs to get Instagram because that's how I communicate. No, you do not. You do not. I wrote back and I was like, absolutely not. We do not allow our kids to have this. If you want to communicate with my kid and that is your only way, you're going to have to communicate through me and I will communicate to you. You have that voice and you have that power as a parent. So I wanted to say that. And then the other one was on the bill. or any legislature. It is so easy. If you don't know how to do it, again, it might be scary at first, but it's really just easy. I believe, and I could be wrong, but I believe every single state has a family policy group, a conservative family policy group. Find out who that is. First of all, if you don't know who your family policy group is in your state, find out. They are fighting for these values that you care so much about, and they're probably some of the only ones in your state doing so. Call them, email them, ask them, how do I get this bill introduced? What legislator can you connect me with so I can talk to them about this bill, to have them sponsor this bill? I will help them do the legwork. I'll connect them to people. It's super, super easy. And then I guess a third point is, again, your voice, your voice, your voice. Once you start calling your legislators on the Hill or even at the state level or local level, and you just want to talk and say, hey, I want your support on this bill, or they know now that you're passionate about it and they're asking you to come and testify. It might be scary the first time or the second time, but I promise you, once you understand how to do it, it gets easier and easier and easier. And the next thing you know, you're going to be up there yelling against the opponent at a local hearing, at your state house, and you're going to be like, absolutely not. That is not what this bill says. That is not what this is. And you're going to have that ability to do that. But don't let the fear of not knowing hold you back from doing the things that you absolutely have the God-given voice and talent to do. Every single one of you has a voice. Let it be used.
Well, I will say, Moms for Liberty is known for being joyful warriors. I'd say the majority of that I've met are joyful. Not all of them are, but they're always opinionated and always make their voice be heard. And that is what you need. The problem is not enough people, and whenever I started this fight 3 years ago, I had to educate so many on the bills, but now it is starting to affect everyone. I always say that, God has a way of teaching you tolerance or teaching you knowledge, and sometimes that's through horrific experiences, like in my case. Don't wait until that happens to your child or your grandchild. If you want to see how bad of an actor big tech is, leave here, go buy you a track phone, and get one for like $50. Set it up as a 13-year-old female. Then go on to social media and look at the algorithms and what is getting pushed to you. You will see how our youth are being indoctrinated by tech. You will see how their minds are being corrupted, and you will see what is getting pushed on them, and that should be enough to fire you up. But we've got to start somewhere, and I'm not saying that there's one bill that's one solution, but each one of these bills are a brick in the wall that we're putting up to make our voice be heard, to say we demand that you protect our children. How do we fight against images in a book, and yet the average age a kid is seeing pornography is 9 years old through these devices, and there's no verification, and you can't stop it from happening. You have no control. So we've got to start standing up and truly fighting for the parental rights online. I think App Store accountability is one of the best ways to do that moving forward, but make your voices heard. Nice, angry, it doesn't matter. As a state rep, we still hear them. Now, if you're angry all the time, we might ignore them, but we still hear them.
Yeah, don't be afraid to be the only one and saying no. Your kids will be fine. My oldest son, he still jabs me a little bit that I didn't let him get social media till he was a sophomore in high school, and all the things that I was the only one who stood the line on. But he's a great kid. He's got a great job, graduated college, has a great life. It's not going to affect their future when you say no. Yes, still loves me. He's great. Don't be afraid to be the only one, because as more people their eyes are open to this, you won't be the only one. And don't be afraid, again, to say why. Your kids will be fine, but we just cannot allow them to be exposed. It's too risky. And you got to follow your gut as a parent and cut off any of those things that you just don't have the feeling and the security that your child is safe there. there's no amount of begging and pleading or peer pressure or anything that should stop you from protecting them based on your own gut feelings.
So, I forgot the question because they were so good. One last thing. Okay, so I'm going to give you 2 actions and then 2 videos you can watch at home if you haven't already seen them. Have you guys heard of Childhood 2.0? If you haven't, it's a great video to watch with your family. The other one is Social Dilemma, especially if you have 10, 11-year-olds. Social Dilemma, they'll be like, I don't want any more social media, Mom, right? They'll come to you about that. It's a really great video. They're great videos to watch with your family and then have conversation. The third one is Bark did a quick video on how quickly it happens online. That I would 15, 16 and above because it's very intense, but it gives you a really insightful view of how quickly this can happen, and your kids will get it quickly. So last 2 things. Turn off your location settings on every single app you have, except for, of course, I Find My Eye and Life 360, right? Because the moment you turn off your location settings and you have your kids turn on their privacy settings, this cuts some of this stuff in half. And they're so simple. It's in settings, and your kids will know where it is. Those 2 things can help protect you and save your kid's life. Last thing, create a family safe word. Change it every quarter. Walk out into the ocean, leave your phone to the car, or go out into the forest and let the breeze. Create a family safe word, because the online video scamming and online audio scamming is real, and the safe word can actually protect you, your grandparents, and your kids from being taken advantage of in a way that they didn't even know it was possible.
All of what they said, but also I think it's important to note, there's over 800,000 developers with over 1 million apps in these app stores. Social media is harming kids, but there's many apps we don't know about. I just found out that they have calculator apps now that are actually for hiding pictures and stuff. There's, different ways that tech companies are finding to try and disguise things so parents will, say yes to an app, or they won't notice, or all of these things. It's impossible for us as parents. I have 3 kids, as Dawn mentioned. I feel like I know a lot about what's going on, and I feel a little bit hopeless without legislation that protects my ability to parent in a digital world. So speak up, speak loudly. Don't feel hopeless or bad that you're not doing a good enough job, because we're tasked with an impossible job right now, which is protecting our kids online. So it's time we give parents real tools to be able to better protect their kids.
Thank you so much. We can't wait for tech to grow a conscience. So thank you for being here with us and for helping us call them out and call them to a higher way. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll be around to chat.